What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the 8th studio album by Kanye West, a rapper that's been around since the late 90s, early 2000s, at least in the production game and rapping underground, and he obviously rose to fame with some of his records like Graduation and Late Registration. I've been a fan for a while now, but Kanye as a person, I understand, can be very polarizing, and he gets a lot of mixed reception. He's considered himself an asshole in the past, he's aware of it, but at times it seems like he's not, and this new record, simply titled Ye, talks about his own mental health and a lot of current issues that have been surrounding his controversies, whether it be on Twitter or his comments about slavery that he made on TMZ. I find many of Kanye's statements to be kind of indefensible, but at the same time, I try to really separate the art from the artist. He makes it hard sometimes, and I've said things about Kanye that I kind of regret, just putting out tweets and being like, I don't know if I even want to review Kanye, I don't want to talk about it, but I will admit that I know that Kanye's done this in the past. He likes to stir up controversy before he drops a new project, and he obviously got the buzz and the hype going, although I don't know if it's the exact buzz that he wanted to generate, especially with saying slavery was a choice, quote unquote. That was something that I found to be very odd, and he even addresses that exact line on this record. Now, he says and claims that he scrapped an entire album of material after the TMZ interview, saying that he started from scratch, and he's been working in Wyoming in the studio. He's been spotted several times since The Life of Pablo, released in 2016. He originally was going to call the album TurboGrafx 17, and that actually didn't come to fruition, and I don't blame him. He named the album after a video game console. I mean, it's Kanye. I wouldn't have expected anything less, but Ye seems a little bit more fitting. Now, with that being a biblical term and something that he refers to his own name in, I can see that he's trying to make some loose connections, saying that, oh, the love is within, and I'm trying to share all of this with you, because Kanye means the only one, and Ye kind of means unto you. And being familiar with the Bible and being raised in a Christian household, I definitely remember the term, but here it just seems like a bit more of an abbreviated self-titled record. Now, with the album only being 23 minutes long and 7 songs in terms of its depth, we don't get a ton of time to understand Kanye, but in that brevity, he's able to make some interesting statements, but also some confusing ones. And I think that the lyrics on this could at times be profound, and maybe not next level by any means, but I think there's also plenty of ridiculous one-liners that just really have you thinking exactly how off the wall was Kanye when he was in the studio. There's lots of guests here, obviously sampling, and Kanye West did a lot of the production work himself. In fact, all of the albums that he's doing for the Good Music label he's producing, or at least co-producing, and I think this record in general seems to be kind of fleeting in what it has to offer. Don't get me wrong, there are some great songs on here. I love Yikes, the rapping, the bars, the hooks on that one, fantastic, sticks in your mind instantly. And even Wouldn't Leave, it's kind of endearing, especially with Jeremiah on that one. He actually comes through with kind of a soulful register in his tone and his singing style, and he talks about kind of his wife, Kim Kardashian West, and how upset she was after the interview that he gave to TMZ, and how everything felt like it was falling apart. But of course, that family is no stranger to controversy, and they are going to make it through, and they are actually being strong together. So in some sort of fucked up or beautiful twisted way, they're sticking things out, and I do like that song. But for every little breakthrough that we seem to hit, we also hit bumps in the road that are solid but often not exactly fully fleshed out. This record was made so quickly that it almost feels like he saved a few drafts and then just had to turn them in. You know how it was, maybe you're still in school or else you were at one point. Sometimes you have to really rush that homework because you know the deadline's coming. I mean, Kanye didn't even take and finalize the album artwork until the day before. He shot it on his iPhone on the way to his listening party on May 31st, and the album comes out June 1st? It just seems like he's really rushing around, and it seems like he's set these deadlines for himself. He wants the Nas album to come out. He wants Tiana Taylor's album to come out. He wants his own, and obviously Kids See Ghosts with Kid Cudi. He put out Pusha T. I mean, I think the man is stretching himself a little bit thin here, especially considering he apparently scrapped an album. I mean, I'm sure he saved some of the lyrics, some of the ideas, and turned them into something else perhaps, but overall I am a little bit worried for Kanye because it seems like he's spreading himself himself too thin between his own album and all of these others just for the sake of releasing an album every single week. One thing I can consistently praise about this record is the production. It's Kanye West, and the man knows what he's doing, whether it be working in samples, even though it feels maybe a little bit too sample heavy in places, but he's able to interpolate some things that actually do make sense and really work for the tracks, although I think listening to Pusha T's album, he was able to pull it off a little bit better there on the production side of things. It just seems like he spends a lot of time and money focusing on these samples, and I also have to wonder, I mean, who is he passing these samples through so quickly? It's like he just has somebody on speed dial and he's like, I want to sample this and this and this. Sometimes it takes people months to get things cleared, and he's just passing it overnight seemingly. But the production is consistent and overall not really a problem on this album. I find it to be quite enjoyable, especially like on Yikes, for example. That one really comes to mind as kind of the banger on the album. And then even the airy spoken word opener, I thought about killing you. Even though I don't fully understand that track, it just seems a little bit wild and a little bit savage, and then it actually goes into a rap at about 2 minutes into the song. It's a weird one, but it's a very interesting and a very Kanye opener, and still, the production that kicks in around the 2-minute mark, it definitely saves it, and I love the instrumental there. As we all know though, production isn't everything, and we start to focus on what Kanye has to say and how Kanye's coming across. And honestly, at times, especially on the last 3 tracks, that last little section of the album, I feel like we don't get enough of Kanye for this being such a short album. Only 7 songs and 23 minutes. We're not getting enough Kanye. He leaves it up to Shake070, somebody that's signed to Good Music, and she handles some of the hooks, the outro of Ghost Town, and I honestly don't care for that, especially as it gets so repetitive. It just, at times, starts to feel like you're just watching a rerun over and over, and it doesn't really make me want to come back to the song Ghost Town, or even the latter half of this record in general, albeit the closing track is definitely something else entirely. Now before that, on No Mistakes, we also get something that I feel like relies too strongly on its hook. Make no mistake, girl, still love you. It's catchy, but at the same time, I wish a little bit more Kanye was sprinkled in, and it just feels inconsistent with its tone and the themes that it portrays lyrically. Awkward and just flat out silly one-liners ensue on All Mine, which is weird. Valet actually does some singing alongside Jeremiah and Ty Dolla $ign on this one, and it is a little bit of an awkward listen. I just don't care for it. The rubbing on the lap, get the genie out the bottle, talking about like a reference to the dick, get it out, you know, getting, well, you know what I'm getting at. But it's a little too obvious, and those metaphors that are used there are not exactly sealed tight. They just break through, and it's too blunt and too obvious. And then Kanye's rapping is fine. It's competent on that one, but just the things that he's talking about, I mean, he's talking about all of these girls that he's taken to the titty shop, and then he starts to talk about how he can focus on 2 things at once because there's 2 boobs. Maybe it's meant to harken back to his early days and be a little bit funny in nature. That would be okay. I mean, I love some of his funnier leading moments like the new workout plan, but this one in particular just feels like it stands out. It's like somebody cracking a joke at a funeral. And as he discusses his own mental health and other issues here, it just seems like this one has some one-liners and some bars that are inconsistent with the tone of the rest of Ye. There are consistencies, and I think the best tracks here are Yikes, like I already talked about. The bars are great there, the hook is fantastic, truly stands above its peers, and then the closing track, the only one that I haven't mentioned yet, that one is titled Violent Crimes. This one is actually downright beautiful. I love this moment because it sees Kanye just cutting through the barrier and making something that feels a little bit more timeless instead of something that is just talking about current situations. This actually feels like I could listen to it way down the road, as many of these tracks just talk about current subject matter, things that we might forget about in a few months, which is why I didn't feel like The Life of Pablo really held up all that well compared to his past works, because it was a little bit more dated. It had that timestamp there in the corner. but this track, Violent Crimes, is truly amazing. I was actually a little bit sad listening to it as he talked about his daughters that are going to be growing up. He doesn't want them to get in the spotlight and for guys to start fawning over them, drooling because he knows what they want. And he's talking about how these people are, drug dealers, they're pimps, they're whatever they are. They're living in the streets until they have daughters. And then they start to focus in and realize that they will do anything that they can to protect that person, even if it means getting violent. And Violent Crimes is a great statement to close out this record. And I think that Shake070's vocals here were actually really nice in the intro, and the synth-styled production is actually quite elegant here. It's spacey, and you can just kind of float into the vibe of this one, and Kanye sounds very crisp, very clear, and very concise with what he wants to get across. To sum up everything, I would say that Ye is a bit of a mixed bag. I don't know if this one's going to have that long of a shelf life. Like I said, it already is going to feel a bit dated, probably a few months down the road, although there are some tracks that you will probably pick off and put among Kanye's best. I would like to see him actually step up with more of a focused project, maybe a little bit longer, maybe like at least 35 to 40 minutes. If not, then that's fine. I'm not sure how long we're going to have to wait for another one from Kanye, but I just hope that it doesn't feel as rushed next time. I really do respect Kanye as an artist, and I struggle to understand him as a person. I know that none of us really truly can, other than him and maybe his own family members, but I don't agree with a lot of the things that he puts out there. But that doesn't influence my decision on this record or the rating, obviously, whatsoever. Trying to be as unbiased as possible here, this new album, Ye, is getting a 3 out of 5. Don't forget to leave a like on the video while you're here, drop a comment with your thoughts on Ye's new album, and of course subscribe to the channel if you are new here. Thanks again for tuning into this review. If you're able to, please support me on Patreon. It truly does help both of my channels keep running on a monthly basis. It's the annotation in the corner or else the top link down below. There's also a link to my merch shop at the second link. If you would like to see my review of The Life of Pablo, tap there, or the review of the Pusha T record right over here. Socials in the description, and I'll see you soon on ARTV.